Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Relevant. I'm your host, Trey Slickers, and this is my co-host.
I'm Naya Mamarimbing.
We're here with our student guest.
I'm Manu Ramos.
And we're also here with
Seth McKelvey. I'm the task force chaplain here at Great Lakes.
We have to call him Pastor Seth. So, I have a question for our guest. Are you guys leaders or are you guys followers?
Everyone's looking at me right now. I feel like I try to be a leader.
You try to be a leader? All right, what about you, Manu?
I think deep down I'm a follower, but I do try to go outside my comfort zone, try to run for positions where I get leadership opportunities.
So like class president, senior class president?
Yeah.
So you're a follower, but you're senior class president.
Yeah, it's weird.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. So, on the conversation of followers, Seth, I think you have some statistics on Gen Z.
Yeah, so we're talking about Gen Z, right? So Gen Z is the age group. It's about early 2000s, like 1997-ish to 2012, right?
Okay.
So before that, it's a different generation. After
So
that,
all
it's
of
Gen
us.
Alpha. Yeah, so everyone here is Gen Z. And here's some stats, right? So I'm going to start out with like the depressing stats, right?
Oh.
So
Depressing?
Gen Z, majority, I don't know if you guys think this way, but majority of Gen Zs believe that the world is going to get worse for future generations.
Worse.
Majority,
Interesting.
57%.
I
And then
kinda
more
agree.
believe that it's going to stay the same or get worse.
I would also agree
I
with that
kinda
stat.
agree.
So you all are like the future is depressing.
Yes.
Not depressing, but
I mean, that's what it says. It says like it's going to get worse.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's depressing, though. I know it'll get worse, but I don't think it'll get more depressing.
61% believe, 61% feel anxious.
Okay.
42% feel depressed all the time,
oh,
or the majority of the time, 42%. Gen Z is, according to a book called The Coddling of the American Mind, a trend based on a study that they did for the book, and that's written by Greg Lukianoff. I don't know how to say that last name, but according to the book, they did a study, and the outside image of Gen Z, like people looking in at Gen Z, they believe Gen Z is lazy. And they also, according to the study, it also is like Gen Zs are lazy. So there's like they look at lazy and then they are lazy.
Well, I think we can see that in the workforce today with that, too. I mean, not many people want to work. They're just getting their stimulus checks and laying at home. So I think
Actually, I disagree.
You do?
Oh.
Yeah. I know you've been saying a lot of statistics. I actually did some research myself, and I found that actually the Gen Z generation has gone through the highest poverty rates of any generation, and also we're born in like the peak or the time of COVID is when like we're all
Yeah,
in
that's when like
elementary.
Gen Z was like
Yeah, that's when we
being
started.
developed.
Yeah.
or like developing their own self, their own
Yeah.
identity.
Yeah, so I do believe, I don't think we're like lazy, sheltered, sensitive. I think in general, I'm not talking about personally, but in general,
I don't know what that means.
yeah, in general, I feel like we've gone through our share of hardships.
wait.
So Gen Z, they come up with terms like, just to follow up on like the Gen Z being lazy thing, quiet quitting. How many of you have heard of quiet quitting?
Maybe
I've heard about it, but I don't.
Yeah.
I couldn't really.
You haven't
Explain
done
it. I
quiet
don't.
quitting.
What?
You haven't done quiet quitting.
I don't know. You'd
In
have
the
to
Bible
explain
department,
it.
have you quiet quit?
I don't know. What is that? See, I'm
Okay,
asking.
so
what
quiet
it
quitting is like where you're like, quiet quitting is where you're like, I'm not gonna work, like I'm gonna do the bare minimum. I'm just gonna like slowly start to like, I'm gonna, maybe use some company time to be on social media. I'm gonna like just barely meet deadlines.
We
Just
work
like-
on the weekends. Seth.
Stuff like that.
We work on the weekends.
So like, you kind of like push your like jobs away ish, like
Oh.
Bare minimum Mondays. That's
I-
another thing from Gen Z.
Oh man. Oh
Bed
man.
rotting.
Bed rotting.
Bed rotting. Have you heard of bed rotting?
No, I have
It's
not.
where Gen Z's intentionally be like, this is my time. I'm gonna take hours and hours and hours and just lay in my bed with my phone.
That sounds
maybe
pretty
Netflix,
lazy. I'm gonna
like
be real. That's
popcorn.
lazy.
Like I'm gonna set intentional time aside just to like be in my bed forever.
Interesting.
Yeah. So those are some of the terms that like come out of like Gen Z being lazy.
So,
I've never heard of those.
You've never heard of those terms at all, really?
do you think Gen Z are good leaders or are they followers?
I definitely think there are a lot of good leaders from Gen Z, the Gen Z generation.
Generation Z. Do you
Gen-
think there's a lot of
yeah.
good leaders? Interesting.
Good leaders like how?
I mean, okay, like I'm just thinking about like how Gen Zs are like really like they're really good at like voicing their opinions, you know, not opinions, but like like suggestions and stuff.
Yeah, in the age of social media, I think we really see that. Like a lot of Generation Z commenting.
I mean, that doesn't
on
make you a
everything.
good leader.
No, I mean like, but like there's, at least for me personally, I struggle with like speaking up, and like I see like a lot of like teens from like the Gen Z, like they're like good at like speaking up and like changing things. You
Yeah,
know?
actually, so I said a lot of negative statistics, but I just want to like push back and like bring some positivity to the table, because I also am Gen Z, even though like Gen Z are principled. They're more likely to be principled than generations before them. Like Gen Z are passionate about principles.
Okay.
They're willing to go deep. So Gen Zs are very likely to vote on principle rather than party. And like they're willing to talk about things like climate change, social justice, mental health. Like those are all passionate things that Gen Z are passionate about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I think the issue with what you're saying though is, I do agree with all the social justice, climate change and stuff, but I feel like the source that we're getting our principles from come from our culture, right? Like since everybody's pushing for social change, we're gonna push for
That is
Yeah.
true.
So-
I see that.
Are we really being followers or are we being leaders when we're trying to push for all these things? Can we discuss an idea real quick? The idea that can you be a good leader without also being a follower?
So I feel like all leaders at some point started as a follower. Like I know that everyone at least has like a role model or like a person they look up to, like someone that they see inspiration from, or like someone they get their values.
A
or
mentor.
Like, a mentor, like someone they see they can follow or like take example from, you know. And I feel that builds to being a leader. Yeah.
So I know in my master guide, I'm working on my master guide for Pathfinders, and Pastor Jeff is my mentor, and I see characters in him that I want to achieve in my master guide portfolio, because he's a master guide. He has to sign off on all these things, and I have to bring all my share sections to him. And so being like him, I see Jesus through him, and that's where I want to be eventually. So I don't know can we bring up Daniel chapter 3? Because I think that's a great story. If someone wants to summarize it.
Yeah, so Daniel chapter 3, just in summary, remember they're in Babylon. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're there on the plain of Dura. Remember in Daniel chapter 2, he'd had the dream, right?
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar had the dream. And then in Daniel chapter 3, he wanted to change the dream. He wanted to build that golden statue where everything was gold, right? So he sets it up. And, I mean, you guys know the story. They're brought in, and they're told, when you hear the music, you need to bow down. Music plays. Everyone bows down except them. And they get turned in. He gives them another chance. They say, no, we're not going to. And then they get thrown into the fiery furnace.
Yeah. Like, they literally stood up for what they believe.
Yeah, they were teens at this point too. Like they were still our age, and it's kind of like, I know in Bible class we're talking about dying for the Bible. I know at least in junior Bible, and these guys died for, I would say, less than the Bible. In a world of shoe tires, they chose to stand.
They didn't end up dying, but yes, they were about to.
They were they made the conscious choice that they would rather die than
Yeah, I think the idea that a lot of Gen Zs live by is, they would want to be like the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They would want to like stand up, go against like what everyone's doing, right?
Yeah.
But I think another issue is that everybody's doing that. Everybody's standing up. So,
but what are they standing up for?
yeah, they're standing up for whatever they feel is like good. They want to do. They're making up their own ethics and stuff. They're not basing they're not basing their principles off the Bible. They're basing it off of social media influencers.
Yeah.
And even like going off of what you said about how Pastor Jeff's your mentor, right? You're developing a close relationship with him, right? I think what I've been seeing a lot of in our generation is we're building like very shallow connections with our mentors. Like we're getting inspired by social media influencers, celebrities, stuff like that.
So you brought up Gen Z again, and ultimately, Gen Z, I really hope, is the generation to bring Jesus back to earth that can reach all the nations. And the boomers couldn't do it. Millennials couldn't do it. Gen X couldn't do it. I really, though, think Gen Z can do it, but they just need to step up and maybe start focusing and get the right leader.
Yeah, and the question is, I think, what makes us different from the other generations? Because, you know, in Ellen White's time, they also thought Jesus was going to come in their lifetime. My parents' lifetime, they thought that they were going to come then. You know, now it's our turn. What makes us different? What sets us apart from the other generations, you know?
I think that ultimately it's the importance of, you know, we're talking about leadership and being a follower, right? And I think that oftentimes in our minds, those two things are separate. Like, you can't be a leader and be a follower. Like don't be a follower, don't be a follower, don't be a follower, right? But you have to be a follower. Yeah. You have to be a follower. And it's who you follow, right? That's going to make the difference, right? And I think that what you brought up is good. I think a lot of times in our generation today, we are following things, but they're the wrong things, right? Or we do have people as mentors, but they're the wrong mentors with shallow relationships, right? And in reality, we have to, in order to be effective, we have to follow Jesus, right? Before we can be an effective leader. And that's, I think, that what can set someone apart.
Yeah. That's a really good point, Pastor Seth. We're kind of running out of time, so I'd like to give the audience a charge real quick. What are you going to do to stay relevant this week and make a difference in this world of followers? I would like to thank our guest, Manu Ramos, and Pastor Seth McKelvey. And until next time, Relevant out.
Relevant was hosted by Trace Lickers and co-hosted by Naya Mamaringming. Our guests were Manu Ramos and Pastor Seth McKelvey. Today's show was produced by Alexander Winkler and recorded on the campus of Great Lakes Adventist Academy. Don't forget to check out our website where you can send us a message or learn more about our show. Thanks for listening.